1395, Adelaide's FIVEaa. This is Richard Pascoe.
And thank you for joining me at 14 minutes past 2. I always enjoy talking to this man as well every week when I'm on, and every week that he can do it, the great Steve Davis. I said great today, Steve. Do you like that?
Wow. Okay. You're raising the bar. Thank you very much.
I am. So yes. Steve, what are we talking about today?
Last week, I was talking about how if you chase happiness, it never works, the losing battle. And the ancient Greeks said, learn how to thrive better. Like, look after yourself, look after your relationships, and then happiness follows. But I mentioned briefly that there was some pretty good literature and research around the importance of delayed gratification. And I thought, I've made you wait for a week. This is the time just to go a bit deeper, because it's actually got some insights here that could have some aha moments for people. So that's what I'm planning to have a bit of a talk about.
Yeah.
And because we talk about it in marketing world with my clients, etc., because customers, they're getting harder to please these days, and tourists are getting harder to keep engaged because we've all got these smartphones in our hands and they distract our attention and they promise us the world. You've got little pings and things happening. And so it just makes it hard from a marketing perspective. So that's why we went into this research. But I think it's also got some useful stuff just for life in general. And I'm basically going to take some ideas from Dr. Anna Lemke. She wrote a great book. It's called Dopamine Nation. And she's a psychiatrist. She's also a Harvard professor over there. She knows her stuff. And in essence, what this is all about is understanding how the pleasure part of the brain works, the bit that makes you feel good, and how that's also directly connected to the pain part of your brain, what makes you feel bad.
Pleasure and pain.
Pleasure and pain together. It's the Divinals model. Anyway, she basically uses the example of having a piece of chocolate. So not you, Richard, because you have amazing willpower.
I have the occasional bit of chocolate, Stephen.
Well, you see, here's what happens. She said you go for your first bit of chocolate and your body releases all this dopamine. You feel fantastic. But here's the problem. That bit in your brain, the pleasure and the pain bit, its only goal in life is to stay on balance, to stay neutral, or homeostasis is the term they use. So what happens is the moment it senses you're tipping over to the pleasure side, she describes it as the brain releasing these little gremlins, if you like. If you imagine a seesaw, pleasure one side, pain the other, it's dipping down on pleasure, so these gremlins get released to push you back down on the pain side to bring things back to normal. So, in normal world, so far so good. But because your body starts sensing that, you're not getting the same kick for this, you then get cravings, which make you want to have a second piece of a chocolate to try and get those gremlins off the pain side again. But of course, what happens is that just signals to the brain, we need more gremlins on the pain side of the seesaw to push down harder. And it's a really fascinating model when she goes into all the research behind this, because she said what's happening on the pleasure side, it's not just the chocolate, but she said it's having a nice beer or good wine or turning on and binging on Netflix. We're just hitting the pleasure side all the time. And you can imagine it means more and more of these gremlins, if you like, are starting to camp out on the pain side because they're just run off their feet to try and balance up what's going on in our head. So we get less and less bang for the buck for the second, third, fourth, seventh piece of chocolate. It's just not having it. And so you've got this sort of horrible cycle happening.
You've explained that so well. Just for it, because it's true. We all chase the nice things in life.
Oh, we do, and I mean that's I guess what progress is all about. But it doesn't change the wiring in our brain. But it sounds bleak, but there is some good news here, by the way, because what Anna Lemke says is these gremlins, which they're calling them, they don't actually care whether it's pleasure or pain. All they see is too much pleasure, so they hop on the other side. But here's the thing. She said, if you actually lead by trying to have some pain first, and this is more you, Richard, this is getting up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym, that is pain. She says it's having an ice bath, it's forcing yourself to do meditation or yoga, all that sort of
ice
stuff.
baths never going to happen.
But see, here's what happens. That seesaw then goes, wow, straight over to the pain side. And guess what happens? These gremlins pack up and they hop over to the pleasure side, and your body starts releasing dopamine to bring you back to happiness. And this is one bit where nature's actually on our side, because when they're on the pleasure side and they just kick in after we've been pushing ourselves, the pleasure bit actually goes a bit above normal, neutral, and it lasts longer. So this is the delayed gratification payoff. If we can make ourselves wait, boost the anticipation for something, we are going with the best hardwiring of our body, and we get a wonderful, wonderful payout here, which is just superb. And it means, like, for example, just back to my marketing world, if there was let's say there's a tour company and and people book in because they want to go somewhere where they get the amazing Instagram selfies, because, it's not a holiday unless you can show the world.
Yes.
But you've got to hike 2 hours to get to the top of this mountain to get it. What this research says is, as the operator, you've got to say to people before they start, right, here's the image of what you can expect to see. Get us drooling a bit for it, but say, guess what? There is hard work coming up before we get here. Yeah. You have to know this. You're going without for 2 hours. There is steep incline. You might hurt yourself, blah, blah, and build that up, because if we then are in that train of mind, train of thought, and get there, the payoff is so much better than if you just hop into a car or a helicopter and get dropped to the top of the mountain, take your photo and leave. And that's the rewiring of our brains. We just want that quick cable car to the top, get the photo. But it's like, yeah, well, we've ticked it off the list. What's next? There was just nothing in it, versus having to work hard for it. And so that's got heaps of ramifications through life as well as through marketing.
But we always want that good thing.
Of course
it is. If we go back to the gym this morning, it's most mornings. I'm up at 5:30 and I go to the gym. Saturdays I do a double gym session. Which, and afterwards when you come out for a while, you go, gee, that was hard. But as you go through the day, you go, I really enjoyed that, because of it really is, the pain before the pleasure. But as a society now, what worries me is that we only want the good things. We don't want to do the bad things to get to the good things.
Yeah, and because you've named it, that glow just lasts longer. And someone might be listening and saying, okay, well, that sounds good. That's good theory. I might try that out. But, we're all like it. But here's the thing. There's one other thing Anna Lemke said. If we are completely getting pleasure hits all the time from whatever it is, and it's more than just one thing at a time, what it means is you've got all these gremlins camped out on the pain side to keep us down, which means we're stressed in that situation. So what happens? You get an extra red light, or the bus comes late, and you're tipped over the edge. You react more than you should, because you're already at the negative end of the spectrum. So we lose that capacity to cope when things don't go 100% well. That's the real downside of having all the good stuff just on tap all the time. So, I'm saying this to me as much as I am to anybody. We've just got to, as you often say, harden up there, sunshine. We've got to learn to not give in to the impulse to grab the phone and check social media every 2 minutes. Maybe watch a little bit less Netflix. Maybe walk a bit more. All those sorts of things to just push us out of the comfort zone, because, as we've explained, or Anna Lemke has explained, there's payoff. It's worth it. We're not just doing it to be righteous. We're actually getting a better payoff later that actually lasts.
And, you can equate that to so many things that when you've had a good meal, when you've also experienced a bad meal somewhere else.
Absolutely. And even when you have, it's tempting to, let's say you've made a fantastic dessert. I'm using examples from my life. Okay, you've made a lovely dessert, and you go, I'm going to cut a slightly bigger piece and that's stupid, because after the first few mouthfuls, you might as well just be eating generic sugar-laden gunk, because you don't have the same pleasure from it. And so that's why there's one, it's not often that I worship the French, but the one thing they do, they're really famous for having all their little pastries and treats are all quite small, because they are. That first mouthful is where the biggest payoff is. And just wait. Anna Lemke, I've got to mention earlier, she said if you just stopped at that first bit of chocolate or that first treat and just give your body time, the pain things, they'll just balance it out, but you'll be okay. You have a great memory. You won't just have to be chasing more and more of them, which has all its ramifications down the track. Yeah, there you go. So just something from the world of psychiatry that, I don't know, I just think it helps us navigate the world and just remind us to exercise the discipline muscle just a little bit.
No, I think it's a great thing, Steve, that you've said. So, I didn't really think about it that way, but now you've explained it in your own way. I think because we all chase good things. We want everything to be good, but we can't get the good without experiencing the bad sometimes.
Yeah, so just remember that seesaw that's happening inside your brain. Anna Lemke, I can't take credit for that. That's her image. It's just so clever to just to remember that. Oh, okay, this is a bit tasteless. What's going on? Well, I've just been ramming it down on that pleasure side too much, so the body's doing its work that it's meant to do. It helps decode, helps understand where things are at.
Which is great. Steve, where can we find out more about you?
Well, Talked About Marketing is our website, and we have a little podcast called Talking About Marketing, where we talk about stuff like this. And if you are a podcast person, when Richard's not on, and whatever the case may be, I think it was Series 2, Episode 6, we go into Anna Lemke stuff in more detail.
Which is great. Steve, I'll talk to you next week here on FIVEaa.
Thanks, Richard.
Thanks, Steve. Steve Davis, Talked About Marketing.